Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games and about the game news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today, man, we're talking about a new type of firing and disciplinary action that's going on. And we know that not everyone knows who Charlie Kirk is, but he was assassinated a few days ago while he was at a university, actually, talking with students there and anyone else that was willing to listen. And just crazy. He's just sitting in a chair. He got hit, and the shrapnel from hitting the chest plate went into his neck. And within about an hour, he was announced dead. And the thing that I think is, I know is truly disgusting is people that are been posting on social media that is like, yay, celebrating what happened and glad for it. And that just it sounds insane to me. Now, this happened too, of course, during Trump's assassination attempts, and this also has happened with other previous presidents in recent history. And I think it's all disgusting. But yeah, we're going to go over a little bit of this, the companies that are affected so far, and we're also going to go over kind of where I think all of this is going and just the tensioning up in society. So we're kind of going to go from video games and shift over to something a little bit more broad and dark. But yeah, this is just kind of insane. Is like some of the leadership at Epic Games, again, just has not been very. What's the word? Um, very sensitive or very nice. Um, and just again not being very nice about this. Now again, it's up to the companies to decide on what they want to do, if they want to do anything, and it's also up to the individuals if they wish to support these companies or to continue to support these companies. But I mean, realistically, I don't think any single company is absolved or has like perfect employees, because none of us are perfect, right, folks? And if you're looking for a company that's absolutely perfect, where everyone has a perfect moral standard, you're just not going to find that even at a church. So I think to boycott isn't really going to change anything. But I think focusing on us as individuals first and helping improve our disposition toward other people is what's going to begin to help and mend the way society is turning. And one thing too is just not to be in your own echo chamber, as some of these people are. And social media has certainly hasn't helped with that, and either is content creation. And I think we're getting to a point in society where it's literally breaking and fracturing under its own weight of emotional stress and just emotional belief, and that we have all of these different kind of like small realities living amongst each other, and some of them just aren't compatible, and that's why we're having these assassination attempts and successes, and people too that are celebrating it, like openly celebrating it, and that is completely disgusting. Also, too, the senior Drew Harrison was apparently fired at Sucker Punch again for some of the comments that he was having. Some people, too, I've heard that also wishing for Charlie's wife to also die, too, so that the children can grow up without parents, which is just a horrible, evil thing to say. Like, this is just unbelievable. And, two, we're also seeing this through some Blizzard employees, which, Nadella or Microsoft is responding that it is we're aware of the views expressed by a small subset of our employees regarding recent events. We take matters like this very seriously and are currently reviewing each individual situation. So they're looking at each individual employee. And something, too, that some people don't seem to understand or remember is that it used to be normal that you would have a common courtesy and decency and respect for people, even if you didn't agree with what they were saying or what their beliefs were, or what they wanted for the future, or how government to run, or whatever. And there was just a common courtesy there. And for a lot of us, we kind of feel like that's somewhat missing and just isn't there anymore, whether it's chivalry or people helping other people just to help them, or people going out of their way, or only helping when it's convenient, and two, people just in general society, doesn't really matter what country you come from, people just don't generally trust people like they used to anymore in the 90s and the 2000s, and I'd even say to a degree in the 2010s. like after COVID and just what's been going on recently has really just been kind of insane. And yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more and more companies that we're going to see from the gaming industry that are going to have employees liking on Blue Sky or Twitter X or Instagram or, I mean, whatever other platforms are out there. And I don't think any company is perfect, but I think the thing that's really kind of catalyzing right now with Charlie Kirk is that he wasn't a political figure. Now, we've taken the time to kind of like dehumanize certain groups of people, okay, like politicians or maybe police officers or military or other groups. Or even other races or whatever. And I think also, too, that's disgusting. Okay, we are all humans and we are all imperfect. But we're like expecting everyone to be perfect and then we're treating them like trash and we're thinking we're better than someone else. And that's truly not the case. We are all valuable. And but I think the thing that's catalyzed with Kirk is that he wasn't really a political figure. He didn't he was a normal person that cared, that was trying to reach people at these universities, and a lot of people didn't like him with what he was saying. And he was never violent. He was never pushing anybody. Okay, he was pretty firm and stern with his words and wanting to have these conversations and discussions. And if you've never watched his content, I'm not saying you have to, but make sure that if you are saying something about his content that you've never watched, that you're actually accurate in how you're portraying the guy, because the guy is dead, uh, and his wife and kids have to deal with that for the rest of their lives. But yeah, this was just kind of a normal guy, a family man, someone that was a conservative that believed in the way that he was living, believed in the Lord, and had a belief system. I mean, he was a normal American, and for him to be assassinated like this, really, I think, just kind of breaks the mold for a lot of people, whether you're on the left or the right or conservative or liberal, progressive, whatever. Is that this is just someone that had different beliefs and was not willing to stay quiet about it and was willing to talk and have open conversations, and he's been killed for it. And that isn't someone trying to be corrupt or manipulate the system or trying to manipulate other people necessarily. This is not someone trying to like steal legally through loopholes or through certain business practices or whatever. Okay, this is just a normal person doing something that he loves to do because of all the backlash he was getting and the threats and stuff. If he didn't love doing it, he wouldn't keep doing it. So, yeah, you'd have to be pretty insane um, to do something you hated for that long, especially with all of the backlash that he was getting. And he got the ultimate backlash. Um, but yeah, this too is just like it is. I think that's what's shocking the most is that we've gotten to a point, okay, where it's not politicians, it's not CEOs of companies anymore. Okay, we're now going after like normal individuals, and this is kind of insane. And this is not just the games industry having disciplinary action and or layoffs, which I'm sure there will be more coming. This is also like different airlines. I've seen Delta, I believe United, and also American Air. They've also fired pilots and other staff and stuff. Or they've been on disciplinary leave, also like Home Depot. We've also seen Microsoft is in there. Home Depot, I already mentioned. NASDAQ, which, boy, those jobs probably pay pretty dang well. MSNBC, Perkins Coie, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. The Carolina Panthers, there's Delta, and yeah, I'm sure there will be others as well. There's also been teachers and professors and other school and college staff that have also been fired because, again, with what they have posted online. And again, all of this is public, and we got to understand that if you are in any position of authority, you want to make sure that you have a moral code. Okay, if you're just working in some factory in the middle of nowhere, most people probably really don't care. Like, we're probably not going to see a ton of firings from like the Ford company or like from Amazon or something like that. But if you have a job where you're engaging with people, where you're supposed to be customer service, and your company is kind of somewhat a public company, or like the customers come in and interact with you, or you're teaching or you're policing or whatever. I even saw a service member is on immediate administrative leave, again, with some of the comments that he posted. And you are expected to have a certain type of conduct, and you also represent the company or organization that you work for. And so if you're making the company look bad, okay, they got no problem getting rid of you. And for quite a while, I think they've been kind of, hesitant to fire people. But lately, we've been having a lot of layoffs in 23, 24, and also in 25. And I think that will continue because I don't think the economies are necessarily getting better. Um, but uh, but yeah, I think we're going to continue to see more stuff. And then too, we got the other side of the coin where people are now actively looking for posts, wanting to send emails to companies and be like, "Hey, do you understand what your employee is doing and stuff?" And so, yeah, I just wouldn't really post anything if you're kind of worried about that for a while, because I think it'll be kind of swing the other way, and ultimately it's going to be up to the company. And if the company thinks there's liability or that you are a liability, then yeah, they're probably not going to keep you, or there's going to be some disciplinary action that'll be on your record. But this does not, as I said, just stop with Charlie Kirk. This is something that's been going on for quite a while and just honestly feels like it's starting to get worse. So, like an assassination, that's awful. When it's becoming a trend, okay, that is something else. And every president, well, since I have been alive, has actually, I don't think the one before W. Bush, which I actually don't know who that is. I'd have to look it up. But pretty much every president since I've been alive, I was born in 1990, I'm 35 years old, every president has had assassination attempts. So H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and we've also had Biden. And there was even some assassination attempts too on also runners up that didn't win the presidency, or even VP vice presidents to some of these presidents. And I mean, this is just kind of crazy. And things are more out there in the open in media than they've been in a very, very long time, maybe ever. With just how free flow of information is with YouTube and Facebook and everything else that's out there. But like this really just seems to be ratcheting up a notch. And like, look at all of the stuff under Trump and also under Obama. Like, this is crazy. Even Clinton had a few, which is honestly kind of insane. And some of these I actually remember. Um, and some of these from like were terrorist organizations, but some of these too are also just from individuals that don't agree with that particular president. And regardless of whether you were for Trump or for Biden, either way, it is disgusting. Okay, we're talking about the murder of somebody, and if you have no moral standard above yourself, then yeah, you can get twisted to a point where some of this can be okay. And we should have a moral standard that is above ourselves. Otherwise, like I said earlier, it's just a whole bunch of laws or a whole bunch of worldviews that don't really coexist anymore. And when people don't feel like they're being listened to, eventually they lash out, and the ultimate lashing out is physical violence to the point of death. And the thing that I really worry about is, getting to a point where it's like, okay, we're going to have like some kind of a civil war. Because as I said earlier, we're kind of having this ratcheting up tension in not just in the United States, but all over the world. And this too, I think, is really something I don't want for us or even for my children, right, or their grandchildren. I never want to have another civil war anywhere ever again because it is truly destructive. It takes decades to recover from, not just economically, but like the number of lives lost and families destroyed. And it is awful. I mean, if you've ever studied the Civil War, you know exactly what I'm talking about and how long it is to actually recover. It is a scar that honestly never goes away, right? And I don't want to be having another one. But if we're kind of trending assassinations, if we're trending school shootings, if we're trending, getting to a point where it's like it starts with something like cancel culture, right? Where we're going after people wanting to damage reputations, wanting to get people fired from their jobs or whatever, and this kind of stuff that can be seen certainly, I think, as a form of cancel culture, but also too, it's like to a degree, this is like, hey, I don't agree, I'm going to try to get you fired, to like, hey, like you seriously have something twisted in your head where you are celebrating somebody's assassination. Like to me, that is completely different. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable with someone that is okay with killing someone else simply for having different beliefs. Okay. We have had parts in history around the world where that has happened. And that ultimately leads to genocide, whether it's the Hutus and the Tutsis, or the Jews or the Gypsies, or anybody else. Okay. We don't need to be having any more genocides in the world either. And I want to say too, it's just like the tensioning up of things with like Black Lives Matter. You know, we had Michael Brown, his death. He was barely over 20, I believe. And then we also had George Floyd, who basically suffocated on the ground. And yeah, there was some misconduct there from the police officer, and I do believe he was actually removed from his job. And then there were other incidents after that, because again, more it was kind of like hyper fixated on. People were looking for it, just like people are looking for people that are, quote, celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination, whether they are or not. It's going to be, more or less seen that way in some cases. So yeah, I would just suggest just don't post, period. And but yeah, this was a real mess, and it quickly turned into Antifa stuff, which, the riots and the pictures and the damage was billions of dollars across over 200 cities and affected 30 states. And this really was pretty wild, even just like 70 miles from here, roughly, about 100, I think, actually. But yeah, like, the rioters had and protesters had completely blocked in like news stations and completely blocked in police precinct buildings and headquarters, and like the police couldn't really do anything. It was kind of insane, and that was happening all over the country. And now we're switching to just something else. But again, people don't feel like they're being listened to. People don't feel like things are really working for them. And I think the civil unrest is continuing to just get worse as people feel like, quote, the system doesn't really work for them anymore. And then it also doesn't help that we had COVID, that we had stimulus, that we have the inflation now, that we had the supply chain issues after this or during this. But like people are just not mentally okay in the head. I mean, the sue rates are some of the highest they've ever been in this decade so far. We have mental health crises with people. I'm not just talking people getting their feelings hurt, but I'm talking about actual mental illnesses or crises. That's some of the highest ever. And again, people I don't think really know how to take care of themselves or know how to deal with things properly or even grieve properly in some circumstances. And so, yeah, they get, again, mentally warped. And then, to the echoing chamber that I talked about and mentioned earlier is just like the algorithms of social media and content creation. It's easier than ever to get that echo chamber. And two, in a lot of cases, we're just at a point where we just don't want to talk to people or associate with people that don't agree with us. It doesn't matter what your belief is or what political affiliation or gender or age or whatever. We're just getting to a point where I think we're all starting to become exhausted, and we just don't want to deal with stuff. So we have a really quiet or silent or lonely society now at this point. And yeah, anger is embedded somewhere, and it is just absolutely lashing out. We also had, the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO while he was visiting at a meeting. So yeah, he didn't. He of course didn't make it, and you can see kind of some of that right here. And then there's also the assassination of Melissa Horton and her husband Mark. That was actually earlier this year, and they were the former Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, and yeah, they were shot. And it was described as targeted political violence. So yeah, political violence just seems like it's really kind of taken off this year, because we've had 2 attempts on Trump, we've had Melissa Horton and Mark, and now we've also had Charlie Kirk as of this week. So what is going on? This is just not sounding very great. And I gotta say too, during especially the Antifa stuff, the amount of people that were buying firearms was crazy. Normally, there's almost nobody in line through FICA to actually purchase a firearm with a federal background check. Or maybe there's a dozen people or like 100 people, maybe when it's really busy. But, when Antifa was going on for more than just a few months or a couple of months, I mean, it was in the tens of thousands for queue for waiting for your background check. So, again, people generally speaking, I would say, don't necessarily feel safe, and not just in the United States, but in France or Germany or the UK or whatever. And again, we can get in or bring up some other issues too, like immigration. But people are feeling how they're feeling, and how can we really combat this? It's not boycotting. Okay, I know some people are going to push for that, but like it's not going to be boycotting. And again, you do what you want, and so will I. Vote with your money, folks, because we should hold companies accountable. But whether you do or you don't, I don't think it's really going to make a difference. I think what is going to make a difference is when we again can start with ourselves and think about how we engage with people, how we interact with people, how we think about people. Because again, action always starts with thought. And if we're getting to the point where we're just disliking somebody more and more, becoming more frustrated, getting to the point of saying we hate that person, even if it's as a joke or something, again, it just continue to slowly escalates over time to the point to where we have killings, whether it's of police officers, sheriffs, political figureheads, or just normal people that want to have a conversation, that want to talk, or your neighbor, or whatever. It was just crazy. Like there's just some person that was randomly stabbing folks on a train, and like what is going on? It literally feels like in a way society is just completely breaking. But you can start with yourself and have those conversations. I've mentioned this on the channel before that having conversations are important, and this is why I do some of the content that I do on my channel, and it's to get some of those conversations actually started, because when you really talk to people that disagree with you, you realize that you're really not that dissimilar. You both want the same thing, generally speaking, but you have different methods of getting there. That's really the only difference, and that's what people don't necessarily agree on, whether it's company, whether it's economy, whether it's how a government should run, whatever, okay, or what should happen at work, etc. But when we're going to be getting to a point where we don't allow free elections, where we don't allow freedom of speech, and I'm not saying you can't just say whatever you want, right? You can't scream fire, okay, and then people can get injured or even killed through trampling and stuff, okay? You have to be responsible with your rights. Same with firearms, right? Same with the Second Amendment. You can't just shoot that off whenever you want, wherever you want, at whatever you want, okay? You have to be responsible with your rights or you can have them taken away. But yeah, I do think we should have conversations. I do think we should talk to people, and I think we should be more polite and kind to people, because people just feel like they're more on a hair trigger than what they used to be. Okay, I used to be able to have conversations with people 15 years ago pretty easily, and now that has completely changed and shifted, especially ever since Trump got elected the first time. And then Biden after that, and then Trump again. And it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And so, yeah, this next presidential election is going to be very interesting, I think, to watch with what's going to happen. But yeah, the tensioning of the United States, of France, of Germany, of Canada, the UK, wherever you live, okay, work on building the type of world that you want to live in. And I think that's really important to remember. Because regardless of how you feel about this, and again, feel about it however you want. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate you or someone else. I may not like what you're thinking. Some of it, too, might be out of ignorance or pity. But it's like, I don't hate anybody to the point of wanting them dead. And that's ultimately what hate is. It's murder. That's what it leads to. And I think we just need to be careful with that. Because I think, generally speaking, we all think that we're normal. We all think that we're, fine in the head or whatever, but it's like if we're calling from genocide, for genocide from like the Jordan to the Mediterranean, that's not okay. If we're celebrating the death of somebody that we didn't agree with on their talking points, that's not okay. If we're completely okay with seeing the CEO dead of a company because we've been screwed before, that's not okay either. It doesn't matter the political affiliation, the sex, the race, whatever. This is wrong. We are having a demoral society, and it just feels like it's getting worse. And it starts with us. What is the world you want to live in? So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always follow me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. You can also follow me over at Twitch at Don't Turn on the if you'd like. And when I'm playing video games, I'll chat with you guys there. And then, too, also on YouTube, don't forget our playlist. There's a lot of stuff there. And if something's not for you, don't sweat it, okay? There's different content throughout the week. There's news, there's reviews when I can do them, there's playthroughs of stuff, and deep dives into the industry. So there's kind of probably something there for just about everybody. But, yeah, I want you guys to really think about what I said. Because, yeah, we are getting to a point where we're not just talking about groups that are dehumanized over time. We're now just talking about normal people being assassinated at a college. And I got to raise kids in this. That's kind of insane. And we all got to live in this world that we help make. So with that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one.